Since 2015, 78 nonprofit universities and colleges have closed, and another 30 have merged in Dying America. And the closing of a university or college is much, much different than the closing of a church because many more people are impacted economically. It's not just the staff at the university. It's the people that supported those people. People who rented rooms, the people who had restaurants and served meals, the pharmacies, the dry cleaners, the laundromats, all impacted heavily in Dying America. And for the professors, it's basically the end of the road because there are not other jobs out there for them to get. Because there are no schools opening in Dying America. And for the staff of the school, they've all lost health insurance, which is detrimental to them. And here's a list of the for-profit universities and colleges that have closed since 2015.
Please notice that all of these have closed in the last 11 years.
Wisconsin has had 3 schools close, and they were.
Let's look in on one of the 3 closed Wisconsin schools. Cardinal Stritch University, a Catholic affiliated school. This is the abandoned campus of Cardinal Stritch University of Milwaukee. You think the photos of abandoned churches and Detroit's abandoned buildings look bad? Check back in 2050 and look at abandoned schools. I do hope I'm alive to see that.
So let's draw a comparison between the great United States of America and the Roman Empire. In the end of the Roman Empire, the elite grew very wealthy, and the populace was hurting for food, and there was a lot of discontent. Today in America, many people are food deprived, and there's a lot of discontent. In Rome, they had a solution. The elite had a solution. It was called panem et circenses, bread and games. And games were meant to take people's minds off their problems. Let's look in on Edward J. Watt's book, The Eternal Decline and Fall of Rome.
Beginning at the end of the Second Punic War, from 218 to 201 BC, a new class of super wealthy Romans emerged. By 130 AD, Tiberius Gracchus attacked the greed and extravagance of Roman and Italian elites, and he pushed for aggressive land reforms.
So, a parallel emerges. In the final days of Rome, a wealthy class emerged, and that wealthy class cared very little about the populace, and that's what helped contribute to the downfall of Rome. And today, in the United States, we have a very, very wealthy elite class that cares very little about the populace. And Bernie Sanders and AOC complain loudly about that wealthy class, but nothing has been done to curb their greed or power. So it doesn't look good for America right now. And another parallel exists, and that's the games. On a lot of university campuses, the wealthiest person, the highest paid, is the football coach by far. And of course, games help divert people's attention from economic and social problems, the same as it happened in Rome. But there's one basic difference. In Rome, the government did try to get bread to the populace. But in the United States right now, 2026, too many politicians are trying to divert food from food-needy families in order to spend that money on war in a dying America.
Approximately 18 million American children live in food insecure households, but Donald Trump is apparently willing to give those mothers $5,000 to have more children.
All the schools mentioned so far are rather small, but Limestone University in Gaffney, South Carolina, closed in 2025, making it the first NCAA II division school to close in America. Here's a photo.
Wow. We are back to episode 1 of Dying America. The columns have arrived. Yep, here's more abandoned columns to add to America's dying landscape. And one day, in the far future, when all of us now living are dead, Limestone University's columns might look like this. Here's a straight-on view. And here are those columns in the middle of the campus. Look at the wonderful forested background. Limestone University started as a girls' high school in 1845, 16 years before the American Civil War. And it was a college from 1898 until 2020, when it became a university, lasting just 5 years.
Limestone University had a ROTC program in conjunction with Woodford College, some 23 miles to the southwest. And so I asked my AI co-pilot if Woodford College was in danger of closing, and the answer was yes. And when it does, more columns will be added to the list.
Here's an old postcard of Woodford College. Now, while some universities are paying their coaches exorbitant salaries, other schools are cutting sports programs in order to stay open. And one of them is Sonoma State University, a Division II school in California. In the spring of 2025, it dropped all 11 of its sports. And this is Sonoma State University's Darwin Hall. When will those columns be added to America's dying landscape?
That will probably be sooner than later, because that school was founded in 1960 when money was abundant, very abundant. And I'm telling you, I've seen 2 different Americas of religion, 2 different Americas of business, and now you can count 2 different Americas of education in a dying America.
The Sonoma State Library, seen here, houses a collection of writings and original letters from Jack London. And the $41 million library was named after Charles M. Schulz, the creator of the Peanuts comic cartoon. He and his wife Jean donated $5 million to help build and furnish the structure. And now the library clock is ticking into a dismal future. And this is the cartoon character Lucy Van Pelt from the Peanuts comic strip. Here, Lucy is 5 foot, 500 pounds. She features Sonoma State's colors, but now with no athletic team to feature said colors.
Furthermore, because of enrollment decline and a $24 million budget deficit, Sonoma State University decided to cut 6 of its academic programs. My AI co-pilot informed me of this.
Sonoma State University is discontinuing majors in areas such as art history, economics, geology, philosophy, theater and dance, and women and gender studies, among others.
Wow. 2035. This episode on school closings could go on and on. I haven't even touched on anthropology departments being closed across the nation and still functioning schools. But my AI co-pilot did inform me of this, that this was in 2025. In the next 5 years, 80 schools will close. That brings us to 2030, not 2035. And please imagine 2050. By then, closed schools will clutter our minds the way they clutter the American landscape today. Let's take a look at Atlantic Union College in Lancaster, Massachusetts.
Abandon, abandon. The columns have arrived.
Too often, when I talk about America dying, people will tell me, oh, we're not dying. We're just shrinking. We're reformatting. Well, let's consider one more time Edward Watts' book and substitute America for Rome.
However, I don't think America's decline will be eternal, because as Rome collapsed, the family size was still around 6 children per woman.
This is the 6th episode of Dying in America. And maybe a quick encapsulation would work. We started off with churches closing. And what are we going to do in the future with In God We Trust printed on our money? And then we looked at the richest man in the world being concerned that we're going to go extinct. And so he wants to colonize Mars and spread humans throughout the solar system. All the while, the rich are sending factory production overseas. And so the wealthy get wealthier and the poor get poorer. And in fact, the poor are getting so poor, they do not want to have so many children anymore. And as a consequence, universities and colleges are closing. Now, for me, that's the dying of America. Maybe I'm in denial, maybe you're in denial. But we can meet on 2035 and we can assess the damage.